Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today, I could swear this ship gets a little more haunted every time I load back into it. Like, it's not just me, right? Even post-generator, I feel like it wasn't this bad when we left off last time, right? Right? Am I just imagining things? Regardless, though, I suppose that's all the more reason for us to finish up our business here and be on our way. Which may be easier said than done.
Speak, Elantak.
Right. Really gotta shore up that demo skill.
I sense something nearby.
Mind those trigger plates. No pressure. Cool. Not sure why the other one exploded again, but I'm very glad our guys weren't standing on it.
Is there money to be made?
Alright, okay.
None are better at searching.
Oh, Juliet.
I follow my own path.
Hey, okay. Wow. We actually made it through uninjured. In which case, I guess we can go ahead and wrap this up while we're here. I honestly figured we'd have to pop back to the ship real quick, but nope, we're good. Let's see what we've got. That's probably fine. Also more curio and a Headhunter Light Carapace. Base armor 30. Bonus dodge equal to 10% of total awareness. Okay, that might actually be a slight step up, but let's hold off for a second. Deal with this mess. From the weakness of the mind, Omnissiah save us. From the lies of the antipath, Circuit preserve us. From the rage of the beast, Iron protect us. From the temptations of the flesh, Silica cleanse us. Uh-huh. Sure. So, how's all that working out for you? Magos, Tiberius, Mala. The air in the room is permeated by a wild mixture of miasmas of both mechanical and biological origin. Blood, rust, vomit, machine oil, excrement, kerosene. All these smells blend together into such a thick stench that it almost feels palpable. Just as the air here is one mad tangle of odors, the device in front of you is a mishmash of wriggling wires and transplanted fragments. In all the clutter, one could almost miss the main component. A heavily augmented man, whose upper body is embedded into the frame of the machine. Dozens of wires piercing his flesh. Juliet's keen eyes are the first to make out the human being amidst the jumble of wires, and she stiffens in shock and disgust. A crust of congealed blood and other bodily fluids covers the man's entire body, but his eyes are open and his gaze is keen. The gaze is turned to you, devoid of surprise or deference.
Who are you, disturbing the peace of holy martyrs in the home of our grief? What do you want?
I'm just a nameless traveler. a wanderer of the stars, trying to figure out what transpired here. You are clearly a revered Magos, but I would have a name. Who are you?
A servant of the Omnissiah, an acolyte of the machine, a prisoner of purgatory, and a keeper of corruption,
the man whispers via the implanted vox. Every word or motion causes his crippled body to shudder. Bloody foam glints from inside the wire-pierced wounds. And what exactly happened to this ship? How could things possibly get this bad?
Ship? There is no ship. There is only purgatory. A world of evil made to harrow and torture those who follow the Omnissiah. It has already killed many of my brethren, but those who remain are strong, so very strong. We will keep the corruption of the machine at bay. I will hold it back. I have accepted a higher calling, the only one among my brethren to do so. As they keep the evil at bay with prayers and sacred symbols engraved on their traitorous flesh, I take this evil inside myself. I imbibe it as one does water, but it can do me no harm, for I am the Eye of Sanctity. I am the sacred filter, the link that protects other parts of the machine from this caustic taint. And for as long as I remain here, the corruption will not prevail. This statement is false. I am registering corruption in this unit identical to that surrounding us. I am registering a violation of the cleansing protocol, which dictates steering the ship into the heart of the nearest star for the purposes of cleansing annihilation. I am registering betrayal of the sacred machine spirits placed in the charge of those weak in faith.
The man looks at his comrade and replies with a long series of clicks in Technolingua.
Permission to use the sacred language has been revoked. Impurity will not be permitted to enter the pure speech of Binaric. Your mortal shell will soon exhaust its vital energies. Pray mutely while you still have the time.
Adira looks the man over with an expression of disgust and fear. I've seen similar symbols, caught a glimpse of them, in my dreams. Whenever the warp wormed its way into them and whispered about its virulent gifts. I doubt these lunatics were given visions of these runes by their god. What evil could possibly be so great that it was worth doing this to yourself to stop it?
The great evil that pervades the universe, tempting with the unattainable, seducing with false knowledge. Evil has many names, but its essence remains the same. It was that evil that trapped us in here, but we were stronger.
We all know which evil we mean, says Yurliet finally, recovering herself. He is blind. He does not see that he has already let the darkness in. That it is here, all around us. I hate to say it, but she's right. I've seen this before, on Janus and Rykad Minoris. You only think you have this under control, but you're actually giving in to exactly what it wants. You become its tool, its plaything. But it's not too late. We might still be able to save you. The man's eyes clear for a moment. They still lack understanding, but there is a hint of surprise. He slowly looks around the room, at the ecstatic priests, at his own mangled body. His vox hisses, as if he is struggling to say something. Suddenly, the mingled stench in the room is drowned out by the sharp, piercing smell of ozone and grease. You sense that the nauseating atmosphere that prevailed in the room has condensed into a single point of evil in the depths of the ship, and is now hurtling toward you. They have somehow managed to make that thing even more terrifying than it was back in Alpha.
You will beg for mercy, but I will grant none.
Oof, and there's that Raging Fiend ability. Yeah, we get one free shot on this thing each round. After that, it starts counterattacking. Not sure there's much we can really do to mitigate that, especially on maximum difficulty, but, you know, we'll try. First things first, let's spread our guys way out. Last thing we want is for multiple characters to get taken out by a single attack. Abby up front to hopefully draw its attention. Snipers spread way out. We'll get one on each of those opposing gantries. That way, when it counterattacks them, it'll just be on a single target. We'll probably have Adira and Cassia stay focused on crowd control, at least until we've wiped all the ads. That way they won't provoke it before they absolutely have to. Abby up first. Let's grab this thing's attention. Though he will not attack it. We do not want to waste our free attack on a lower damage swing.
Indeed.
We just want it to stay focused on him for as long as humanly possible. Adira's up, but Veil Degradation's too high. We can't really do too much with her. We will, however, go ahead and trim a Vox Skull. Yeah, we really don't need those things doling out extra actions or healing injured enemies. So it's good to get them out of the way. Cass up next with a full turn. Let's get that Veil under control. Oh, wow. Really didn't think that would work on the big bad, but okay, let's go for a stun. No stun on the Forge Fiend, but we did get the other two. And that's our one free attack, so from here on out, this thing will start counterattacking every time we hit it. We'll have to be ready for that. Mask up next. Let's go ahead and keep trimming these ads. Pass stack up. 5 stacks. Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah, ow. That wasn't great.
Swift and silent.
I was really hoping it would go for Abby, but fair enough.
If I must.
Let's lay into it. We're going to take some casualties here. We're just really hoping we can outlast it.
I understand your intent.
Oh, okay. Well, I was really kind of hoping you'd go for someone else, but that's fine. No one's actually out yet.
If it serves your cause. Ancestors, guide me!
Servitor on the move. And Valen, let's get you up top, bud. Yeah, unfortunately, Pascal's pretty much out of the fight over there. He is terribly wounded and missing his next turn, so no real coming back from that.
It's as good as done.
Best we can hope for is that he'll soak another attack for us.
If not me.
Louder.
Okay, yeah, we're not doing great here. For the Emperor!
Victory is imminent.
Sorry, Pask, but better you than Abby. At this point. I mean, we do still have 2 dedicated DPS strikers, so I mean, we might still pull this off.
Oh, my ears are ringing.
And Abby is tanking like a champ. Okay, actually felt that one, but still not too bad. Burn him down.
Just a minor setback.
You're good, bud. Just hang in there.
I am not your Xenos pet, mortal.
Pain and duty go hand in hand.
Oh, we are so close.
I'll see to it personally.
This should do it, but if we get XCOM'd here, I am going to vomit with rage. We are good. Oh, the man's mutilated body is racked by wave after wave of convulsions.
Evil. That was evil incarnate. Evil. The corruption that watches us day and night.
Suddenly, the man raises his head and looks you straight in the eye.
You have banished the evil. You tried to warn me, but I was deaf. The ship, Kiava Gamma, it followed us from there.
Kiava Gamma. So this is one of my ships.
Yes,
The man whispers.
the ship and the planet, the traitors among our brethren, tormenting the sacred mechanisms, letting corruption into their systems. They turn that which is holy into the unholy, and they set these new twisted machines on us, their tech comrades. We managed to flee, but one of the monsters found its way onto the ship.
A tear appears at the corner of his eye. He thrashes frantically in the mess of wires piercing his body.
We fought. We cut off one module after another, as one cuts away rotting flesh. But it followed. Its invisible influence, the corruption it exuded, it claimed us one by one. The crew were merely humans of flesh and blood. They were so weak, they succumbed so easily. We could not save them from evil. And so we gave the ship to the darkness among the stars. But the darkness came for us too. In this last module where we intended to make our last stand. Then I sacrificed myself. I became a filter, a stopper against the corruption emanating from the machine. I succumbed. The corruption came for our souls. The corruption of Kiava Gamma. Traitors.
With the last of his efforts, he rasps.
The fabricator sensor. It all started with him. He was the one who let this taint into the sacred code. He was the one who doomed our brethren. He was the one who spawned the steel monstrosities in the furnace of our planet.
I understand. And rest assured, I will see to it that this is put to right.
I was a part of the great force that drives the universe. I do not fear the cold of death.
A wheezing breath escapes the man's chest. Then his eyes close. Hey, you level up. Neat. Well, this has been quite a day. With apologies to our support crew, all of whom appear to be broken to varying degrees. But, you know, the ship's just a hop, skip, jump away, so we should be fine.
Or get left in the dust.
Let's canvass the cathedral. Then leave this place strewn across the stars. Diagnoster. Plus 15 Medicae. Okay. Well, do we have room for that? Look at that, we do. Fantastic, let's get that slotted. The empty shell of a daemon engine. It was this creation, a horrifying mix of real space technologies and the deranged powers of the warp, that disrupted the ship's systems and twisted the tech priests' minds. Neat. Well, I look forward to never meeting one again. For surely this is the only one we will ever encounter. Let's get the F out of here.
Always keep your eye on the prize.
So that's 2 of our missing void ships accounted for. 1 to go. Oh, and, I really kind of figured leaving would trigger an event of some sort. An option to actually destroy this thing. But no, I guess we will leave it here for other innocents to stumble across. I'm sure that's fine. Anyway, let's hit the pause button real quick. I will go through our options here. Then we'll get this level taken care of. After which we'll probably just unwind with some FaceTime with one of the crew. I think it's about time. Be right back. And we're back. Bone hath set and flesh hath stitched. So now we move on to bettering ourselves. Starting, of course, with this thing, because yes, on closer inspection it does indeed give us a very small but notable boost to our defenses. That's a net +5 on armor, and, based on our current awareness score of 65, a net +6 on dodge. Since, obviously, we do not meet the agility requirement for the actual Sin Skin bonus. Honestly, the only real sacrifice here is that we have to give up our cool Crime Lord jacket. But, you know, small price to pay to be slightly less permeable. Especially after what most of us just went through. And as for our level ups, honestly pretty straightforward. We get a new ability, though some of our characters do also gain a bonus skill up, which we will of course drop right into our usual places. And then for his ability, this was actually kind of a toss-up, because I have had a number of people talk up Killing Edge. Apparently it's very good. Though I will say, I kind of had my heart set on Fainting Attack, because it just sounds a lot more fun. You know, we've kind of gotten into this whole forced move groove, which makes fights very dynamic and dramatic. And this would add on top of that, because it would force enemies he potshots to move, thus triggering additional attacks of opportunity, which we've gotten a lot of mileage out of. That's kind of Cassia's whole thing right now. So yeah, I'm thinking we'll take Fainting Attack first, just for the fun of it. But we will still pick up Killing Edge as our third and final pick. That's like another 6 or 8 levels out. That'll give us time to shore up our lethality. After that, we've got Yurliette, and this one's even more straightforward. She only gets an ability, and we are going straight for Ensnare the Prey, which I believe I've mentioned at least once or twice before. That essentially grants her a free immobilizing grenade every round, which of course will also pair very nicely with that new talent we just gave her, which grants her a big damage boost against immobilized targets. Not really sure where we're going to go from there, but I figure it'll either be Cull the Bold or possibly Piercing Shot. But we've got a while before it really matters, so we'll just let future retcon worry about that. After that, we've got Abby, and this is a big level for him, because it's finally time to take Defensive Stance. That one boosts his defenses and grants him an automatic counterattack against any enemy whose attack he successfully parries. It does come with a minus 20% penalty, but that we can offset with, I believe, Counter-Strike Stance. So that one's definitely on our shortlist. I'll also say, it's kind of funny because the only reason I didn't take this as our first ability pick is because it originally cost 2 action points to activate, only for them to then turn around and immediately reduce the action point cost 1 patch later. As for our skill bump, no real question there. We're bumping up athletics. That'll help offset the 5-point loss to strength from our new arm gear. Which brings us to the Grand Strats. Though as per usual, only one of them will actually be taking Grand Strat abilities. Since Adira, of course, will be going straight for Warp Speed. I believe I've mentioned that one before. An extra action point per turn is pretty huge, especially since she can lead combat by casting it on herself. There are obviously much more broken abilities we could take, but this one at least falls right on the edge of my comfort zone. You know, between the realms of competitive and just outright cheatery. As for Cassia, there's a whole bunch of abilities I wouldn't mind her having, but ultimately I think I have to lean for practicality over fun in this case, and grab Mend Reality. As we've seen in recent battles, Adira is very dependent on us keeping the Veil under control, and the best way to do that is with Cassia. That said, the rest of her ability slots will definitely go towards things that are a bit more exciting. Which finally brings us to Pask, who, for lack of any other options, will be taking a new stratagem. And I've got to say, for the most part, I find all of these pretty underwhelming. In theory, Combat Locust would be the one I would find most consistently useful. The problem with it is that it's also kind of inconvenient because it wipes 2 of your combat zones from the map, meaning you then have to reset them, and that's kind of a time sink in a longer battle. So I'm thinking instead we'll try out Blitz Stratagem, which grants a free movement action to all allies within, in this case, 14 spaces, to instantly move towards the tagged zone, which I could theoretically see a lot of potential uses for. Quickly rallying the group to a specific area, having someone retreat right after attacking or overextending themselves, emergency evac for injured or otherwise crippled characters. We'll give it a shot. And worst case scenario, we can always swap it out for something else. Possibly Stronghold or Overwhelming. They both seem to have some limited use. And that's it. Level up complete. Though, as always, I'm curious to hear what you guys might think. Just keep in mind, I am kind of aiming for a middle ground between effective but not outright broken. Even with all the patches they put in, there's still a fair few infinitely powerful combos in the mix, and I just find those take the fun out of it. Anyway, with that out of the way, I figured we'd just kind of wind things down today by getting to know one of our companions slightly better. And given the events we just went through, I think the most logical one to approach would be our resident tech priest. This will also give my throat a bit of a break because I believe this should be one of the rare conversations that is almost completely narrated.
The Omnissiah knows all, comprehends all.
Pascal, shrouded in his crimson robe, greets you with a soft voice synthesized by the Vox system. The mechadendrites growing out of the tech priest's back swivel in your direction, as if examining you with curiosity. Pascal, we've been getting more weird messages in the ship's logs. What do you make of all this? Should we be concerned?
This statement is true. Algorithmic violations have been recorded, as a result of which I twice performed an offering to the cogitators of corrected data vows and ruled out the possibility of sabotage. I hypothesize that the violation is a consequence of the discontent of the ship's machine spirits. I recommend a procedure of placation of the honored spirits for the glory of the Omnissiah and the steel angels sent by him.
Right, thanks. I'm sure that'll help. Always appreciate some good text support. Anyway, while I'm here, I feel like we should have a bit of a chat about who you really are. I feel like at this point it's pretty obvious that there are things you haven't been entirely forthcoming about.
The request is approved. I did conceal certain information. I was a student of Archmagus Amanat, but I committed an act of betrayal after he deviated from sacred dogma.
The mechadendrites coil around the tech priest's chest and shoulders, as if trying to protect him. I see, so you betrayed your previous master.
He fell into schism and challenged the sacred boundaries of knowledge. The blessed Amanat claimed the limits of what is permitted must be expanded, because by refusing to explore certain lore, we find ourselves in contempt of the seventh universal law. Comprehension is the key to all things. My mentor put forth a thesis claiming that we have stagnated, that ritual is now nothing but a cage for souls and false worship of the Omnissiah. He sought to break the cycle of mindless repetition because he saw the inevitable demise of our faith and all humanity at the end of it.
Well, we've discussed this before. I'm not entirely unsympathetic to his point of view. There's a lot to be said for ingenuity and innovation over rote repetition. That aside, Pask, I've observed you diverge from rote doctrine on more than one occasion since we started traveling together. I hardly think you're one to judge.
This statement is false. My mentor's words sound like heresy. Limits were established because it is dangerous to venture beyond. Each step past them could lead to a bloody slaughter, but the blessed Amonat was not afraid.
What exactly did you do to betray him?
The teachings of the blessed Amonat spread, and word of it reached the conclave of the Cognizance fleet. They recognized his teachings as tech heresy. Many tech priests suddenly vanished or were subjected to servo penance for minor transgressions. The students of Amonat, whose number included many enlightened and respected brothers, resisted. My prognosis showed that our most likely future was a schism and a fratricidal war that would destroy the Cognizance fleet. That was when I headed to the Conclave. I confessed and handed the information about my mentor's research over to the Conclave. Brazen, anathematic studies of the Forbidden Law. The Conclave could use that data to summon Archmagos Amonat to stand trial and compel him to repent on pain of excommunicate Traitoris. His subsequent fate is unknown to me.
Right, so rather than trust him, you delivered him to an unknown fate. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big betrayal.
This statement is true. However, I took this step out of loyalty to my mentor. He rejected caution and was leading us to a blasphemous war where he would become the first and most important victim. I did not want to witness his destruction and tried to force him to submit. I wanted to return to my mentor and share his fate, but the Conclave found me repentant and sent me to the station Alter Templum Calixis EXT-17, where I was to atone for my previous transgressions.
Right, that's the Cognizance Fleet outpost we saw just outside of Footfall Station. Which certainly does imply that that'll be part of his eventual character arc. I've got some theories about him, but I am very curious to see how Pascal's story resolves. No need to sugarcoat it, Pascal. You already classified it as a betrayal yourself. Why try to downplay your decision now? Intentions aside, he trusted you and you betrayed him. I certainly hope that trend won't repeat with us.
This statement is false. I, Pascal Hahnemann, fully accept responsibility for my profane acts and betraying the trust of my esteemed mentor.
Pascal takes a long pause, broken only by the nervous crackle of his vox. There you go. So after all that, why go to RetconRaider? Why let yourself get drawn back in?
I was summoned there by a message that was encrypted with the Blessed Amanat's personal code, and could it be interpreted in several ways. One thing was certain: we were in danger, and I had to go to RetconRaider.
Only instead of Amranat, you found our friend Abel here. Any idea what all this means?
Assessing his personality is difficult. The spirit of Brother Abel is different from that of most people. Tech comrades of the COG call such persons quiet ones. He possesses significant intellect, but shuns communication. So far, I have not been able to determine why Abel summoned me to RetconRaider, how he is related to the Blessed Amanat, or why he bears the same name as me. Perhaps Reverend Abel may not be fully able to actualize and interpret the available data.
Right. So what'll you do next? Aside from continue serving as my Exsellsior, of course. You do still work for me.
I was wrong when I assumed it was the Blessed Archmagos Amanat who assumed the guise of Abel Haneman. But there is a connection between him and the Reverend Abel, and I intend to uncover the nature of this link.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty safe bet. Thank you, Pascal.
Acknowledged. I will return to ruminating on the search for the Blessed Amanat.
Actually, why don't you tell me a bit more about yourself? Who knows, the details might be important as we try to piece together the rest of this puzzle.
The request is approved. I have no outright restrictions on disclosing this information.
Behind the tech priest's shoulders, the mechadendrites spread out like wings. Great. Let's start with the basics. Where are you from?
Information about my origins is worthless. I belong to the priesthood of explorators and came to the Coronis Expanse over 200 years ago. Any events preceding that moment are insignificant.
I don't know about that. Like, how'd you end up here in the first place? That's a pretty pivotal part of my backstory.
I was honored to become a member of the Explorator Cognizance Fleet. When the Adeptus Mechanicus summoned the faithful for an exploratory venture into the depths of the Coronis Expanse, I joined the fleet in fulfillment of my sacred vows of comprehension.
And yet I can't help but notice you're not with the fleet now. You're here with me, looking for your erstwhile mentor.
After I betrayed Archmagus Amanat, the fleet conclave directed me to the orbital station, Alter Templum Calixus EXT-17, for penance.
Right, of course.
This venerable temple station was founded in the early years of our expansion into the Coronis Expanse. It is currently a rear observation post of the Cognizance Fleet in orbit around the star Furibundus.
Understood. What else can you tell me about the Explorator fleet? I grew up amongst tech priests, but I never had much exposure to the fleet.
The sacred fraternity of explorers. The cult Mechanica sends us out to the frontiers of the known sectors as researchers and conquerors. We are the warriors of the Code, who return to the lost worlds and devote themselves to recovering the lost ancient knowledge. Explorators are granted the privilege of being more independent than many of our tech comrades. However, it has earned us a reputation as unstable and poorly controlled troublemakers whose unorthodox views are dangerously close to apostasy.
You and me both. Right there with you, bud. What about those things coming out of your back, the megadendrites? What can you tell me about those? They seem pretty useful.
They are my younger brothers and guides on the way to the Omnissiah. Their machine spirits are directly bound to my neocortex and pick up impulses from my subconscious. Sometimes they act ahead of my thoughts. This is how the Omnissiah leads me to comprehension.
The voice coming from the Voxen changes, becoming strangely softer, glooming with low, warm undertones. Right. So they do in fact have minds of their own. Which does play into my previous theory, the idea that a fragment, or maybe even full backup of Amornaut might be buried inside him somewhere. Thanks, you've given me a lot to think about.
Acknowledged.
And what the heck, might as well go for a full sweep while we're here. Pesk, talking to you's gotten me thinking. I may have grown up on a Forge world, but that was a long time ago. You wouldn't mind if I picked your brain, would you? I could use a refresher on aspects of the Mechanicus, especially in light of recent events.
I am honored to belong to the priesthood of Mars, guided by its tenets. We safeguard technology against the impure and the unenlightened.
Right, Mars. Yeah, that is where you guys are based, isn't it? I can't even imagine what that's like.
That is where the cult of the Omnissiah originated, and where we were granted the first revelations. Many millennia ago, we made an alliance with the Emperor of Terra, and have served the Imperium ever since, paying a tribute to machinery, weapons, and void ships. Everything that bears the blessed seal of machinery comes from our hands, and it is we who make sure the operating rituals are performed as they were meant to. We are everywhere. We are the Mars forged steel bars that give the Imperium strength.
Have you ever had second thoughts about your Order's tenet to hoard and suppress technology? Never made much sense to me. At the risk of sounding heretical, I always figured it would be better to let it spread and grow.
It is both a treasure and a secret. Technology is how the divinity of the Omnissiah manifests itself in this world. This is why the uninitiated may only be allowed to touch the most vulgar and mundane of its instances. We, on the other hand, are authorized to use the sacred catechism of maintenance and operation. Although there is another reason to deny lay people the sacrament of knowledge, it can be dangerous. Twisted by renegades, the Omnissiah's wisdom is called heretic, and the exposure to it may corrupt the uninitiated. Another danger is knowledge strangely interpreted and inscrutably twisted by the minds of the Xenos. This bane is called Xenotech.
Xenos. Then I suppose that's where our beliefs diverge. I was raised to respect technology and to worship the Omnissiah, but not vice versa. The Omnissiah's gifts are just that, gifts. They're tools to his followers. Technology can, in and of itself, be dangerous, but that's all the more reason for us to master it, regardless of its source.
That is a bold hypothesis. And yet the Omnissiah teaches us that a dauntless mind can penetrate any knowledge through analysis, where the ignorant see heresy, the enlightened might see truth.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I appreciate how flexible you are for a tech priest, though it makes it all the stranger you couldn't see eye to eye with your mentor. What rank are you, anyway? I noticed the other tech priests we encounter tend to defer to your authority.
This electu indicates that I am a Magos, who has mastered the sacraments of many spheres of knowledge, and has the right to conduct services in a forge cathedral.
Pascal exposes his wrist. The glowing green threads of an electric tattoo run under the pale skin that has long forgotten the taste of sunlight. Good to know. Honestly, kind of surprised to see any skin under there at all. You're one of the more heavily augmented servants of the Omnissiah I've encountered. I take it the number of augmentations are a sign of your higher station, perhaps? You know, I'm augmented myself, but it's more out of necessity than any sign of station.
Organic tissue is an imperfect replica of the machine, transient and vulnerable. Metal is more stable, more effective, and more durable. Flesh speak is flawed next to my Heric language. Meat begets weakness. It softens the mind and undermines discipline. But you can replace metal when it wears down. In addition, a machine is a supreme form of knowledge, and by assuming mechanical form, we become closer to the Omnissiah.
Huh. Yeah, I guess I never really thought of it that way.
However, like all things sacred, our augmentations must not be defiled by the eyes of the ignorant, which is why we reveal only the crudest of tools, while holier mechanisms remain concealed beneath our crimson robes.
Really? I'm already pretty impressed by what I can say. Is the rest of you really that much more advanced?
The right to witness the miracle of flesh being fused with holy metal is granted only to those who have ascended to the rank of initiate. However, your lofty status of rogue trader allows me to make a partial exception and reveal my sacred stigmata.
Pascal reverently parts the rope's scarlet folds on his chest. You see emaciated white meat, gnawed through by metallic shunts and flexible wires. Blood runs through transparent pipes, enriched with the nutrients required by the pallid flesh. The sight of a body transformed into an appendage of an incredibly complex mechanism, built using unfathomably ancient blueprints, is mesmerizing. Every component of this machine serves the dual purpose of preserving life in Pascal's fragile flesh, and preventing all threats to his well-being. Incredible. An intricate series of machines, all interlinked with your own biological systems to create a form of mechanical immortality. The Omnissiah has indeed blessed you, Pascal. Thank you for giving me a glimpse of his miracles. It's something I won't soon forget.
The Omnissiah has been generous to you too. He has granted you understanding.
Pascal looks at you with respect. He seems surprised that you recognize the purpose of the augmentations implanted in his body. So tell me, Pascal, just out of curiosity, what is the Omnissiah to you? I mean, obviously there are numerous interpretations of its exact nature, but I'm curious what you might think.
He is the divine mechanism, the maker of technology. The universe was made to resemble a mechanical marvel because the Omnissiah rules over it. Knowledge is the highest form that he uses to manifest in the world. For now. Someday, he will come to this world in the absolute fullness of his splendor. The Adeptus Mechanicus worshipped the Emperor. He is the earthly manifestation of the Omnissiah, who brought humanity into the light of divine grace.
I actually didn't know that. That's good to know. I kind of operated under the assumption they were two separate entities. I notice you have a very curious way of speaking. Is that just a quirk of your communication implant?
Partially true. I had a voice modulator implanted alongside the respiratory purification module, but there is an additional reason. Gothic is not my first language. I am used to thinking and making statements in lingua technis. The binaric language is more informative, more ergonomic, and less prone to misinterpretation.
Understood. You've satisfied my curiosity. Thank you, Pascal.
Acknowledged.
Right back at you. I'll let you get back to it.
May your labors be effective and fruitful.
The Vox synth emits a rattling, binaric mantra. Interesting. Why do we still have corpses decorating our bridge? Someone clean that up. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I know chattering with the bridge crew and companions is a bit redundant for folks who've already played the game, but, you know, I feel like it provides a lot of important context, a lot of plot hooks for us to attach dangling plot threads to better understand the network of this complicated world that we found ourselves thrust into. Especially for the folks who only have a partial or even completely non-existent understanding of the setting. I mean, I fall into the former category, since I was at best, you know, just a casual dabbler in the realm of Warhammer 40k. I played Necromunda, I played Gorka Morka, but aside from a brief dip into 3rd edition, I never really played the tabletop all that much. So for me, that was a great refresher course on the basics of the setting, or the basics of a specific aspect of the setting, which in turn was directly relevant to various events that we just went through and which we have yet to reach, such as Kiava Gamma, and ultimately whatever ends up happening with Pascal, of course. That's it. This feels like a good place to call it. We'll hit the pause button for now. I will take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, do some light trading, and we will pick up here next time. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Revenant, Alois, CrowkingLoR, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, V23, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Comprehension is the key to